by alone inside. He's got the breakaway with the touch to the right. Goal! Everything you wanted from this debut. It's Brandon by taking a shot with the left. Goal! Isaac Friend from 25 yards out. The equalizer. Will Kidd with the touch of the goal. It's a go-ahead goal. Minneapolis City.
This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Welcome one and all to the People's Pitch, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. As always, I am Nate, joined by the Rob Stone to my Fernando Fiore. It's John Bisworm. John, after all the soccer that Minneapolis City has been playing the past few weeks, kind of feels weird to have a single game week, doesn't it? Like we forgot about something, like we left the oven on or something.
Yes, it does feel a little weird. It feels weird that we didn't have to force a podcast in. Not that we forced the show into our lives. We both enjoy doing it, but it was we were yeah, we don't have to rush.
We don't have to do it on Tuesday.
Yeah, we don't have to rush it. We don't have a game on Wednesday, so it feels great. And I'm gonna hold back on telling you my Rob Stone story because I don't want to take up too much time on the show today. But one day I will tell you my Rob Stone soccer story.
All right.
It's a good one.
Nice. So what's going on? What's on the docket this week?
All right. So this week the Crows pulled off some last-minute heroics to stay in the playoff picture. We'll tell you how we saved a point in Rochester. We also had a friendly this weekend. The Des Moines Wanderers they wandered into Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about how our midseason friendly went. And then we'll take a look at as usual, the state of the state for the MPSL North. And then we'll get ready for the Crows' return leg to lacrosse to play the newly confident lacrosse heiress.
Yeah, let's get after it, John. We know after last weekend that we needed to move forward and get a positive result against first place Med City. And the fact that it was away in Rochester turned that difficulty up quite a bit. Let's see who the Crows sent down to take on the Naughty Nurses.
So the starting lineup was pretty familiar. It was Elder in goal. It was the back line of Jonah, Max Kent, and then Mark Haight was making his return into that back four. And then your central three seems to be that new pairing that's been working well in Hoof, Stewart, and Hackinson. And then up top, you had another familiar three with Will Kidd, Whitney Brown, and Justin Oliver. And then your bench rounded out with Troy Luegi, Siku, Kevin Andrews, Chuck, Aiden O'Driscoll, Timmy, and Ben Wexler.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see the team as a whole seems to have taken this road trip seriously. I would definitely call this a strong to super strong lineup, considering everyone's form lately, everyone's fitness. This was kind of best case scenario for a midweek game.
Yeah, I would say yes. This was a pretty strong team. One typically in the past, we probably would not have been able to send because it was midweek trip away. We've had some guys get injured, but we've talked about this depth that the team has this year. And this is an instance, I think, Nate, where we were able to kind of pull out of that larger player pool and bring a strong squad. But plus you're playing against the first place team. So,
yeah,
guys look at the calendar and they're maybe on Team Snap might move to yes because of the importance of it, and we've kind of had Rochester's number of sorts in very important games in Rochester. So it was good to see that we did get a strong group to go.
Yeah. It took me a while, John, I was kind of looking through Med City's Twitter. It took me a while to find the feed, to be honest. In the end, Will Kidd's mom found it on Facebook or through Med City's Facebook.
Outside of every team in our conference, the only team that I'm not too sure about is lacrosse, and everyone else uses MyCuju, man. So yeah, it's
that's kind of what I figured. As I realized I should have just gone straight to mycuju.com and searched rather than look for the link.
I'll drop some knowledge on you and our faithful listeners. all you have to do is go into my Kuju has a fantastic mobile app.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is go into the mobile app, and you can set Minneapolis City as your team, and then it'll just push you notifications with the link and the like about I think 10 minutes before each game, and then
Sick.
yeah, you can either go watch it online, or you can you can stream it on your computer or your smart television or whatever you need from that point.
Well, what I did see from the first half once I got going was a City team that was, I would say, much better in possession than we were in the Duluth game early. We were very calm, we were very organized, and we had a keeper who was just on his head. Elder was looking good.
So I think that we'll talk about the how the keys to victory matched up, but I think you're right there. It was very calm. There was no sense of urgency right away. And as far as the first half goes for me, I think overall it was another instance of City kind of starting out slow though. Med City created many chances in the first 10 minutes. And you're thankful that they could not convert. And Matt Elder, like you mentioned, made some really big saves early on. But we weathered that storm and then really settled in nicely, I felt. And City was okay with keeping the ball. There wasn't a whole lot of pressure for Med City. There were at times where they would kind of hunt in packs, and they would cause us to have to play under stress a little bit. But the majority of the possession was in the Crows' favor, and I thought that they totally controlled the latter half of the first half, creating quite a few chances, but again, nothing really broke. And we ended a half again without scoring, which is frustrating. And this is something that we spoke about in the match preview, and we have to figure this out. Seeing that we're at the midway point in the season, putting the ball in the back of the goal is like, it's vital.
It's got to happen.
It's got to happen. And I did the math, Nate, and in our last, at the halfway point, we're basically creating and converting at a 1-to-8 ratio of chances that we're creating to finishing.
Ugh.
And that's got to get better.
Yeah.
So we know we're creating them. And we keep saying it's a matter of time until it clicks. It's eventually going to click. And I saw it in training this week that there were quite a few goals getting buried in good, dangerous situations. But that's not a game.
Right.
We're talking about practice.
Yep. It's got to happen. It's got to happen during a game time situation, man.
Mm-hmm.
John, it looked like it felt a lot like 2 years ago, and I'll tell you why. My heart sank when that soft foul call in the box led to a PK and
you and me both, my
deficit.
friend.
Besides it being in my mind undeserved, there were definite flashbacks of the season 2 years ago. It felt like when it felt like we were battling uphill in most every game we played, right? That we had to claw our way back, that we had to compete, that we weren't coming out of the gate strong. We had to compete late, and giving up goals late to get draws instead of wins, losing points. So what looked like happened in this run of play was that Med City played a long ball forward into the box, and this guy was kind of backing into AO, and AO must have pushed up on his mark to kind of launch himself up and win the header, and the guy just kind of stumbled forward. He didn't even fall. He didn't drop to his knees or anything. He just kind of bent over and took a few steps forward, and the ref felt like that was enough to award the penalty.
So I'll add to that sequence a little bit before I dive into my take on it. So after whatever happened, the ball popped up, and then they had a chance at a better chance, I feel, at a strike on goal. And Elder was already going one way, and the whistle blew, and the guy didn't have a chance to take the shot. So we kind of lucked out a little bit in theory there, where they didn't obviously score on that opportunity, but they did get the penalty and convert.
Yeah.
But for me, the penalty kick call, yes, I thought it was pretty soft, but AO put himself in one of those situations where he got a little handsy. And although I don't agree with the call, it was made and we had to deal with it. But the player that was said to be fouled in this instance was played a very difficult pass that I don't think he had any chance at bringing down and getting a scoring a shot on goal, I guess you'd say, creating a scoring opportunity out of it in a very crowded space. because everyone was in there.
Yeah.
And then that's like I mentioned, the ball popped out, and then the guy had actually a very good chance, an angle to take on goal, which is kind of why I think it's soft. But in the true letter of the laws, his ability to try to create a goal scoring chance was impeded by AO by pushing him. And so regardless of how hard it would have been for him to score there, I mean, I'm okay with the call because I do think AO pushed him, but it was like just a physical play. And the guy there, it's like the uncatchable pass in football. Like you can't call a penalty on a pass that the guy can't even get a hand on.
But it happens all the time.
Yeah, but it happens all the time. So it's like this is one of those exact instances. But I think
it feels like if the ball was played to his feet and AO pushed him over.
100%.
Even just a little, obviously, right? But like it was definitely a 50-50 chance in the air. Yeah, I really think if AO didn't push off to get a little height on it, it would have been a no call.
Right, exactly. And I think too that like, yeah, if it was to his feet, absolutely. The guy, but the other thing is that no one in the city of Rochester was complaining about the push. Like, usually like,
right.
Usually like everyone jumps out of their seat screaming, hey, and like trying to get the call, but no, from what I could tell, no one said anything. So it was like, they didn't even really believe it.
A surprise for everyone.
Right. Exactly. So outside of that, Nate, I looked over my notes, and Med City only recorded 2 shots on goal in the second half, and that included the penalty kick. So you would say that stat in itself, that the Crows were in total control, even though they were down after that penalty.
Yeah.
And all it would take was them to keep after it and finally tuck one home to get a point, or perhaps tuck 2 away and get the big 3 points.
Yeah, exactly. And how frustrating was it as we continued to boss possession, especially in the last 20 minutes? Med City was not interested in pressuring us at all. And we couldn't convert, right? Like some of the ball movement in the final third was just a delight, but we just could not find a shot. Both, I think the team play by, I think Aiden in by then, or?
Yeah, Aiden was in by then.
So the team play by Aiden, Stiggy, and Kevin and Tim, as well as some individual displays by Kevin Andrews on the right wing were really well defended in the end. Kevin dribbled like 3 dudes, I think, at one point in like the 86th, 87th minute, and his cross to Tim was, Med City defender just got a foot on it, that kind of thing. With the clock hitting 89 minutes, I'll be, to be completely honest, in despair, I started to like minimize my browser window. I just didn't see it coming. Like it was like it's just not our night. I was trying to, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't watch it to the closing whistle. So I start to move my mouse to close the browser window and start shutting her down. And Siku wins that fight for a long ball from Max Kent. He dribbles towards the end line. He finds Tim Wills in traffic, and Tim sent a low hit one-timer into that far right corner, and he tied it up with like 20 seconds left in regulation. I couldn't believe it. Amazing heroics from this squad on the road, John, to make me feel like a fool for doubting them.
No, it was, I've lived through, being a sports fan outside of soccer, and I've lived through a lot of agony and a lot of the opposite of agony, I guess you could say. And both sides of the coin. And I've learned, though, that no matter how frustrated you are, how big of a beating you're taking, how the chips aren't falling for you, you always stick it out with hope that your team can pull it out. And they did. They totally pulled it out. And it just showed the fight that we knew how important that game was, and we were the better team on the day, and we were not going to settle for dropping 3 points on the road. And I think that the changes made off the bench were coupled with some slight tactical adjustments that saw the Crows really ratchet up pressure, and it paid off on that game tying goal. The balance of play leading up to that was in our favor. In the second half, where I thought Med City kind of had a little bit of an edge in the beginning of the first half, but it continued once we took over in the first half. I think it continued throughout the second half. And I kept thinking to myself, it's only a matter of time until this happens. Like, I hope it doesn't run out before we get a real good chance, because it's going to come. And as you mentioned, I thought Kevin Andrews came on for Oliver on the right wing and was so dangerous every time he touched the ball. I mean, his initial first touch, I think he kicked the ball out of bounds. He shook off those. Yeah, he shook that off, settled in. I thought Timmy was active in causing fits with his hold-up play. The Med City defenders just couldn't rip the ball off of him, and he really kept a lot of attacking sequences alive with his ability to keep the ball. And I also thought, Siku has had his ups and downs, but I thought that he came on and provided really good energy on the left side. Will Kidd, it wasn't his day, but Siku came on it and really played well. And like you mentioned, on both sides of the ball, he tracked back on that after losing the initial 50-50 ball to win it back, and a nice bit of individual skill to then slot it into Timmy. And he did what Timmy does, and just had a cool finish. But at the end of the day, you take the point, you go home. But again, I think it's another match where we dominate the run of play and we leave points on the table, and that one really should have been ours, I think.
Yeah, but instead we leave with a point. Fine. Your keys to victory last week. Let's go through those and see how we matched up. You said that goals would be a great hangover remedy after the loss against Duluth.
They still are a great hangover remedy, but we didn't get enough, obviously, and I thought we really should have. So that one we didn't capitalize on.
I think this one we succeeded in. You said don't panic.
Absolutely, we did not panic. We didn't panic in the first 15 when we were under pressure, and we for sure did not panic throughout the dying minutes of the game when we were chasing that late goal to get the point.
And finally, at least 1 point was your key.
Yes, should have been 3, like I mentioned, but we did just enough to stay in the conversation. So, if we did not, you look at this game as a potential crusher of playoff hopes, and then kind of ends the year. I mean, I know we still have the return leg against Med City and Duluth. We still have a game against them, but even if we were to take points off of them and we dropped this game, it would have been, we need help from people who, if you look at the recent history of the fixtures in our league,
no one's help out there.
No, and we'll get to not a lot of help coming when we talk about the league wrap up this week.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, I thought we needed that point. I told it was funny. I told Tim Wills after training on Tuesday. I said, Tim, if you don't come home with at least 1 point, just collectively pull your money together and buy a house in Rochester, because I'm replacing all of you. And then he goes out and scores the goal to get us 1 point. And then he texted me on the way home. He's like, "Are we allowed to come home now?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "You may. Yes, you may."
Yes. So even though we didn't get that victory, the point feels totally acceptable here. It's not what we were looking for, but not worst case scenario. Let's talk about player of the game, John, because it turns out, we don't compare notes before the show that much, but I think we agree on this one.
Yeah, this one was a hard one, I think. But we did agree because there was just good soccer being played all over the field. I thought Max Stegward had one of the games where he just controlled both the offensive and defensive flow of things from the midfield spot. I thought Max Kent and Jonah Garcia, they completely shut off Neto, who's the leading goal scorer in the league outside of the penalty kick that he converted. But they limited him, from my notes, to only 3 shots, 1 on target being the penalty kick. Yeah. So, but Matt Elder was fantastic. And in the first half, which I think is where we needed him the most, he kept us in the game and kept them off the score sheet in the run of play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Matt Elder is the player of the game here. Like I said, he had some heroics early. What are you going to do about that penalty? That's just kind of a, whatever. That's you get what you get there. But I think he is the guy that kept us in the game and made sure that we had the opportunity to kind of gather ourselves and start taking advantage of some of that calm play in the midfield and on defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was not the only city action on the week. We did have a non-league friendly in-store on Saturday, filling the spot on the schedule that was previously occupied by VSLT. So the Des Moines Wanderers came to town. They are a rough and tumble group of college kids living in Iowa for the summer. They're living in Des Moines, probably to either help themselves train or to stay close to where they might be from, or where they live, or being able to get themselves back to college quickly here at the end of the summer. And due to U23 commitments and other scheduling things, John, you were on the bench as the head coach. So I'll ask you, straight from the horse's mouth, what were your goals for this game? What did you want to get out of the team?
Well, I first would like to caveat that I am still undefeated as a head coach of Minneapolis City. In all of my brief appearances as the head coach, I lead. I have not lost yet, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. But anyways, so first and foremost, this was a chance for us to see some of the bench players get the lion's share of some vital game minutes. And because, the injury bug hit us, we didn't mention in the recap of the Rochester game, Max Kent went down with a late knee injury, and on just kind of like an unnecessary foul, and no structural damage worry for him going into his college season, but the injury is going to take him out for the rest of the year with us. So that's a little bit of a sad news to say and to hear, but so, the injury bug outside of that had hit us, and the 23 team was traveling. So I really couldn't bring in every young player that I wanted to, because we had to split the teams up. But we were able to bring in a handful of U23 guys, and I think got some really good looks at some of them, and I thought that they overall performed pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then secondarily, I think we talked about a few things that need to get better at, with our NPSL team, and it started with the back line trying to find players in the middle of the field to their feet with line breaking passes instead of always going long. So we were really emphasizing that out of our back line. And then once the ball got into the middle, what was their ability to turn and then to find players making runs in the front line, and those front runners having to make the runs. And what I told our team was, at the pro level, the second and third runner is mandatory. At the college level and at the MPSL level and at the U23 level, the second and third runner absolutely destroys teams because they're not expecting it and they're not ready for it. And in some cases, defenders at those levels haven't quite figured out how to think that fast ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So I wanted our front line to start to get active. So each level of the field, I kind of gave them a job to do. And I think it took a bit of the kind of get to know each other because they hadn't all played together much. There were some starters that played in the game. You get guys like Luke Hackinson, and then we had some cameos by Timmy played in the game. We had, a cameo by Stigwart and Matt Murakami, and Zuhir. But by and large, the rest of the team was all new. Yeah. So there was clear defined goals for each level of the field that I gave these guys. And I think that we accomplished them at the end of the day.
So when you talk about second and third runners, you mm-hmm. mean not just the guy who is hoping to receive the pass at his feet as he splits, two defenders. You mean that guy makes a run, but then there's also a guy that's either to, behind him to the right or behind him to the left that's making a run, and then a guy on the other side of him that's starting to make a run, not necessarily sequentially, not necessarily all at the same time, definitely not towards the same area of space,
right?
But
mm-hmm.
all in the name of creating space on the field for one of those three guys to get a pass.
Exactly. And so you were able to have an ear into the conversation that I had in the post game about making off the ball runs. And basically what I equate it to is that you have to think less about where you think the guy is going to pass the ball, and you have to make the runs off of what the defense is giving to you to where a ball can be passed.
Yeah.
And we don't think like that in certain instances. And the teams that do think like that are dangerous. And the teams that don't get lucky with the first run paying off. Otherwise, they have to waste the pass. The ball goes out of bounds. A guy has to take a silly shot from distance that shouldn't be taken. The ball has to go backwards, things like that.
And I think what that does is it plays into, it gives us a glimpse into, and it plays into your definite style of midfielder, the kind of midfielder that you're looking for that can hold the play up, put his head up, and make a split second good decision based on a number of options presented to him.
Right. And I told the guys too, I want to win this game, obviously, because we don't play soccer to tie and to lose, but I want to see those, I want to see those things happen. And if we lose a game and we're trying in a friendly scenario and we're trying those things and we're converting them in some aspects, I think it's a win because you're using this game as the ability to try things out in more of a pressure cooker than you do in training. So fortunately, we didn't lose the match, and I thought that we accomplished the goals that I gave the team.
So what U23 players were brought in? Because there were a number of new faces, even for myself.
Yeah, a lot of new names on the team sheet that the average fan and even those like yourself that's close to the program probably didn't know. So from the U23 team, we had Eli Goldman, Noah Sen, Ben Keller, and Luke Lindsay. And then we had two trialists that were kind of training players that we've had in, Jalon Johnson and Ricky Oliveros.
Yeah, so this game also saw the return to Minneapolis of a Minneapolis City alumni, Juan Luis, who stayed in Des Moines this summer for an internship. But he was joined on this team by a number of Drake players, including the two goal scorers. So it's not really a bad program they have down there, huh?
It is a good program. They're really young, and they've done a really good job, I think, of bringing in like two full classes of talent. So look for them to make the jump this year from a program perspective, because those guys are now in 2 years into college or 1 year into college and gain their legs underneath them. But you could see it in the players that they brought to play against us, Nate. They were well trained. They had good skill on the ball. And I applaud Des Moines because outside of the 4 players that they have from outside of Iowa, but there are guys that are just living in Iowa because they play Division I or NAI level, close by Des Moines. They have all local players, and around these parts we like the local player angle.
Yeah, I like that philosophy. Even though their player pool isn't probably the biggest down there, it's still a cool thing to do. I did notice there were a number of kids that went to University of Missouri, Kansas City. The Fighting Kangaroos. It's my favorite D1 soccer program because it's your Kangaroos. That's hilarious. All right, John. So we got goals, John, from two guys that you and I, but you especially wanted to see something out of for various reasons. First of all, U23 player Eli Goldman scored the first equalizer off of a one-time banger, a very impressive shot, and you said a high level of difficulty after the game. In general, this guy showed up to play on Saturday when you put him on. Tell us a little about Eli and about that goal.
So Eli's a pretty interesting player. He was a highly recruited player out of the DA with Minnesota Thunder Academy 2 years ago, but chose to go to Barcelona for a gap year to enjoy himself before he figured out where he's going to go. Not quite sure where he's going to go, if he's figured that out yet. But he played in a development academy in Barcelona, not for
not for Barcelona.
But right. Another team in Barcelona. So he was in a high level training environment. And he actually trained with us last summer with our U23s before he left to go to Barcelona. And I think it paid off for him because the player that he was when he left us last summer to where he is now, I think is night and day different. And so I think he made the right decision there from at least a soccer perspective. But when, from the latter half of your question, his goal, if you're able to see, what he can do, with his off the ball movement, that was, I thought, where he was fantastic. He won a ball with with our second half line of pressure where we increased it into their half more, laid it off to his fellow U23 brother, Ben Keller, who who then, beat one player. And then Eli didn't stop there. He continued his off the ball movement into finding a nice pocket of space to occupy while the eventual cross was waiting to come in. And when it did, I thought Ben did a really good job of putting pace on it to make sure that it got somewhere. And it really showed good concentration in that pocket of space that Eli found in a very crowded situation. I think there were like 3 or 4 guys that were on the goal line, and he hammered it home and kept it on target, where, some players may see the light at the end of the tunnel and put that one into the park across the street. But he was composed, and his one-timer went in, and look at that.
Yep.
We had some life.
We had some life in us. The other goal, John, came from another guy who came ready to play on Saturday and who has done everything so far except find the net up until now, and that's Luke Hawkinson. What did you like out of his game on Saturday?
Well, outside of the fact that,
what's not to like, to be honest, but
right, outside of the fact that whenever Luke steps on the field, he's if not the best player, he's one of the best players on the field that given day. And just his incredible work rate. The guy just doesn't stop. And that's why eventually at some point Luke will play at the highest of levels, because he's just that type of player. But basically, the way I set things up is a very interesting formation choice. We basically went with a 3-6-1. So if you think about how Barcelona plays, they really only have maybe 2 true defenders on the field at any given time, and then the rest of the guys are just guys that have good skills on the ball. So that's kind of what I was thinking about in the formation on the day, and part of that was led into the fact that I was a little light on defenders. So
it helps the decision-making process.
It really did. It's thinking about how we're going to set up, but that type of formation is kind of tailored for a player with the skills that Luke possesses. It allowed him to kind of roam around and find the ball where he felt he was in the most dangerous of spots and maximize his ability to get off goal-scoring chances. And finally, it let him have, in theory, a day off from playing defense, because you had 4 players centrally behind him to do the cover work. And I think he probably could have had maybe 2-3 more goals than he did on the day.
Yeah, this guy, John, I think he's like the Hulk. You can just throw him out there to smash, and it works, right? He's roaming the midfield. He's able to get that interplay going with whoever his wingers are. But we need him when he's out there to be Smart Hulk, the new Smart Hulk from Endgame, right? Finding the right space and converting those chances. And so far, he is my favorite addition to the team this summer. And if he can start scoring in the NPSL games, he will be a true monster for us.
Yeah, I believe so. He's really good.
Overall, what are your thoughts on what you saw Saturday? What was working, and what do the players need to prioritize as we enter mid-season? And you can stick to NPSL if you want. You can go team-wide. Who needs to prioritize whatever.
Well, what worked is that, once again, we kept the ball and had the lion's share of possession in instances for large stretches of the game. And we created chances, which is exactly what you need to do in any game, but specifically one where you have specific tasks that you want, that you're giving your players. I thought we also showed that, we were all bought in, and we can all out press on a team if we're chasing a game. And basically what I mean there is, at halftime, we talked about the 3 levels of things on the field that I wanted them to do, what I thought was successful in those 3 things, and what I thought we fell down on, and how we could change it. But, I left it up to the team to tell me what they thought. And one of the things that was mentioned by one of the players, I won't name any names, was that if we press that team, we will get goals. So I said, all right, I'm all in on increasing our line of pressure. However, it only works if everyone in the room makes the commitment to go when we all want to go and press. Because if 3 players out of your 10 that are in the run of play don't buy in, it absolutely gets sliced up by a good team. And that was a good team we played against, and it doesn't work.
Right.
So going down 1-0 early I think was a defensive breakdown, which led to a good finish from Des Moines. We could have panicked at that point, but I thought we kept the ball and we played our game and we worked on the things we wanted to work on. And then with that commitment to press high in the second half, I mean, if you go back and watch it, we created so many turnovers in their final third, and it increased our ability to get more chances. And we did that, and we scored 2 goals.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that it's interesting to note that even in something like a press situation, everyone has to be on the same page. You can't have that one player that's really not interested in that, because that's going to be where they find the outlet. That's their safety valve when they know that everyone's pressing except for this guy, so someone can always kind of take a couple steps back and find themselves open when he's defending them.
Well, there's nothing more deflating when you're on the field, Nate, and you're going balls to the walls and you're putting in the work to press, and you turn around and the people behind you aren't doing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell, man?
I'm all alone.
Yeah, like come on, like I'm busting my ass here. Like if we just all ratchet it up a notch, we'd be fine. So, and it's also it's even more deflating when you're doing that work in maybe a group of 3 or 4 players, and then a simple 5-yard pass breaks it all down because one person isn't committed.
Right.
So I thought that, like I said, for the folks that didn't get a chance to watch the game, you can go back to my Kuju and watch it. If you weren't there on the day or didn't watch it, and you can see what I mean. When in the second half, the changes we made, we were all over that team, and it was because we were creating turnovers in their defensive third. I think though, the second part of it is where we kind of fell down, and that's trying to protect a lead. I made a formation change to put 5 in the back behind the ball in kind of the final 8 to 10 minutes when I saw them starting to throw everyone forward. But once again, we gave up a silly pass and we were unable to keep the lead, and they easily equalized. So regardless of the personnel that you have out there, we've got to stop that sort of thing from happening. Yeah. I mean, we're getting into the second half of the season, and it's vital that if we have a lead, we don't lose it on our own. Like if a team comes out and they individually or collectively beat us because, a great run of play, that's a different story. But the silly passes in the defensive third and just people not clearing balls out and trying to make, a difficult pass instead, it's just got to stop. And I'm not sure what it is. I really don't. We talked about it after the Duluth game where we lost the lead and ended up dropping 3 points that I thought were definitely ours on the day, or at least one point.
Yep.
But when you have a lead or you are level and can get out of the day with 1 point and stay relevant in a title race, you've got to switch something on in your brain to do whatever it takes on the field to get the job done. And I thought, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but as a coach, I feel that it was the right call to change the formation and drop the numbers and kind of equalize what they were throwing at us from a defensive standpoint. But at the end of the day,
you did it right, man. You hit the left D-pad on the controller and you put yourself in the defensive mode in the final couple minutes of your game.
Yeah, I mean, I tried, but at the end of the day, the players have to recognize it too and just execute. So, if any of them are listening, please take it to heart. We got to get better at that. And I mean, I know we can do it. Last night I popped into training and we did some 11-a-side scenarios, and one of them was killing out a game and the other was chasing a game. So, we worked on that and it was executed. But again, that's in the training environment. It's not in the live environment. So we have to now we've seen it, how to do it and the ability that we can do it. We have to translate it to a match. And
as we look to do that, results around the North this weekend only serve to put pressure on the Crows as we really begin the second half of the season. And
all I have to say about the results is, God damn it.
What are you going to do, right? We got to make a push to end in a top 2 spot, and we need a little help from our not so good friends around the conference. So as we've talked about before, Med City and Duluth, they're entering a fairly breezy stretch of their schedule. So that point we saved in Rochester is going to be incredibly valuable moving forward. Wednesday night, while we were in Rochester, the Twin Stars beat Sioux Falls in Sioux Falls 4-1. Nothing surprising there. On Saturday, this is what I was talking about. Med City, they beat Eris. The Twin Stars beat Dakota, and Duluth, they edged what you got to assume was a tired Sioux Falls team, only 1-0. Duluth.
Can we talk about that one for a second?
It's a road trip. It's quite the trip from Duluth to Sioux Falls, but 1-0 is not what we were expecting out of that.
So I watched that game. I went back and watched it, and it was like, I think the goal was in like the 60th or 70th minute. It was a fucking own goal, Nate. And so ball comes in on a corner, and the Sioux Falls defender on the back post had nobody on him, and it looked as if in that instance, like maybe a whistle was blown for like a push or something in kind of the melee of players, and the guy just rockets the ball into his own goal. Like literally, what? Yeah, literally just like full volley out of the air into his own net. And I'm thinking like, what just happened? Like, and the perplexing part of it is that Duluth was all over Sioux Falls and they weathered the storm. So I'm thinking the whole time I'm watching like, man, this is really good for us. And then I'm like, I don't know if Duluth can crack this defensive shell that Sioux Falls is playing in. And then this fucking idiot goes and scores an own goal. And it was baffling, but it was just another case of like, what do we have to do besides like, what do we have to do to get any sort of like reprieve in the league?
It's also a message for the kids. Like at no point should you ever turn and kick the ball into your own net.
I mean, Nate, it was a no doubter. This guy hit it clean into his own goal. If you look back to like the Twin Stars, they were beating Duluth in Duluth, scored an own goal in the 90th minute
off of like an insane wrong direction clearance.
Yeah, Duluth gets 3 points. I mean, they earned at least 1 point on the day. Or sorry, they save a point. They earned it because they scored 2 good goals against the Twin Stars. But the Twin Stars were better on that day than I thought Duluth was. And then you go to this game, and it's like, yeah, Duluth was a better team, but like, what the hell was that guy thinking? Yeah. So we talk about the need to get help even now because we did drop 3 points to Duluth and we didn't pick up 3 in Rochester that I think we could have had. But like, God damn it, man. What do we got to do, Nate?
Well, this week's results find Med City maintaining their top spot in the conference with 17 points off of 5 wins and 2 draws, while Duluth has edged ahead of us to claim second place, our loss to them being the difference maker. Each of us, we do have a game in hand over Med City and the Twin Stars, who are trailing in 4th with 10 points after 7 games. And like I said, this week's matchups does not... There will be not a ton of movement in the table after this week. After Duluth welcomes Dakota on Friday, Med City will welcome Sioux Falls, and we head to Eris on Saturday. I think we're going to be looking at a similar situation on the table next week. Should be wins all around. And the Twin Stars, it's worth noting, do not play this week, but they do play next week. I think they line up against Duluth again for rematch.
Well, I think that there's a potential in Rochester if Sioux Falls sends the right team that they could drop points.
Yeah,
which
Bryce
would be good.
Holiday goes.
Well, I mean, just in general, if they just like play, because we talked about it when we played against Sioux Falls, like they leveled up and like they've always been that team that you're like, I don't know what they need up there or over there or whatever you want to just what they need in that wherever they are, what they need to get over the hump. But like they're either it's a tactical thing or it's like one player to put it all together. They're just always right there and they can never do it. And I don't know what it is, but hopefully in our favor, they figure it out with that game against Duluth. And Duluth doesn't play it that different of a style than Med City does. So perhaps tactically what they did against Duluth maybe would work against a Med City. But if not, you're going to see Neto run wild and score a bunch of goals again on them. But maybe I'm holding out hope.
Even a draw would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a game coming up this week, Nate.
Yeah.
The tough battle back to the top begins for us on Saturday against a team that surprised us on the road last year. We head to the land of the long grass in La Crosse for a rare matinee on Saturday at 12:30. And luckily, though, we're playing at a high school that has turf this year, Nate.
Oh,
so,
well, there you go. Problem solved.
Problem solved.
I'm going to be interested to see how La Crosse approaches this game, John. Now that they have a win, they've clearly been trying to be competitive, scoring more goals this year than they ever have. Do they bunker down and hope to get another point or some more points out of the season and possibly finish above Dakota? That'd be the only goal of trying to get more points. Or do they open up the attack, look for more goals out of their attack, and try to develop their players, try to gain that confidence, try to get these kids moving forward with their development? I'm not sure it matters. We should be able to grab these 3 points, especially now that you said that we're playing on turf, kind of mitigating any sort of environmental factors.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, I thought that they would have come up here when we played against them and sat back, and what was the final 5-0, 4-0, 5-0. And I think it could have been worse if we would have finished in the first half. But yeah, you never know what to expect. But if it were me, I would just play my game, just continue to develop your team. I mean, they have a young team and they've gotten in better players. Why not continue that growth by trying to play your way versus trying to just stop a team from getting a point? Just go play soccer and hope it comes out in your favor. I mean, that's the way I would play it, but that's not my team. So,
right.
Anyway.
So what are your keys to the game, John, for this one?
All right. So number one, I think we punished them for last year's result in La Crosse. I think all the BS that came out of that, I think we go out and we try to hang another 4 or 5 on this team. They did all the tricks in the books last year to draw us. And, we hit the posts, I think, 4 times last year. I think it's time for us to make a statement win by punishing them for last year.
Yeah.
Number 2, keep a clean sheet. I mean, we want to do that every time you go out, but if all goes well and as planned, 3 points is going to be riding home in the van with us on the way back to Minneapolis. But with that said, we need to get back on the right side of the goal differential, standpoint of the table. Obviously, we're not in the negative by any means, but some of the goals we gave up, the one we gave up against Dakota kind of hurts. At the end of the day, and the 2 we gave up against in the loss against Duluth hurt as well. So I think we gotta try to come away with 3 points and the clean sheet. And then lastly, I think the most important thing, it's not necessarily a key to victory, it's more of a key after the victory, hopefully. And that's to stay healthy. Right now we're hit by a few key injuries. That we mentioned the one with Max Kent, Samuel Ruiz Plazas. Unfortunately, the news came that he picked up an injury that's gonna make him out for the rest of the year. When we saw really good flashes out of him, so we need everyone in the final push for the second half of the season and then everyone who goes to this game needs to come back from the game with the ability to play again.
So make sure that you all keep an eye on the Twitter feed. The game day Twitter feed. I doubt there's going to be a streaming link since La Crosse, like you said, is the only team left in our conference that doesn't have a reliable system for that. Kickoff is going to be Saturday afternoon at 12:30. Very strange kickoff time, but that's when you want to be watching for that news of what's going on in La Crosse.
Yes, so that is all for tonight, folks. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Summit Brewing Company. It is summertime, if you haven't noticed, and even though the weather has kind of yet to catch up,
beautiful out there, though. If the whole summer's like this, I'm cool.
Yeah, I mean, but it's slowly catching up. But what that means, it's summer ale aplenty. This is by far my favorite of all the Summit offerings, and it is perfect for a nice warm day of watching soccer, Nate, and forgetting about life for a little while. So get down to your local watering hole and get some on tap today, or mosey on down to your local liquor store and pick up a 12er, and you will be a better human being for it. Summit, a more meaningful brew since 1986. If giving back to the community means a lot to you, maybe it's time to give to the club that loves to give back. Minneapolis City is a 501c3 that provides a safe, reliable, and fun environment for young people to play the beautiful game. Look for us out in the city parks. I think we're going to be out at the Curry Park this week. Curry, yeah. Yep. Today was the first installment of Free Play that sponsored by Minneapolis City. So get on out if you want to kick a ball around to Curry every Wednesday. And consider a tax-deductible donation to a truly city-focused organization. If you've been hitting up city games and really like what you see, and you're not a member yet, what's the holdup, people? For $80, you can support the club and get some cool stuff in return. And it's never too late to buy membership. That thing has legs throughout the whole year. You can get a season pass for every city home game. You get an exclusive membership scarf, some flex tickets, and you can share your love for City with your friends, and a membership card that gets you 10% off at the club shop and deals on Summit at our official game day bar, Palmer's. Plus, there's more. You get to vote on a very important Club Matters. We'll eventually get to talking about our new board members. And you get to choose a scarf, the kit designs, all that fun stuff. So visit MPLSCitySC.com and make it happen today. The stands have been packed to the gills so far this season. So come on out and make some new friends. Send us mail. It's easy to do. Hit us up on Twitter at The People's Pitch or through email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. All questions, comments, and concerns are always welcome. And finally, if you just want to complain, you can always hit up the club at MPLS City SC at MPLS City SC. That is all for this week. I'm John. That was Nate. And next week, we will bring you a delayed feature on the progress of the U23 team, as they've had a few matches this week. So we'll get to those next week. But until then, the second half of the MPSL season starts now. Let's finish strong. And you got hoofed.
Poster burning maple weeds, cradle major keys. Thinking back, I've been major since the minor league. So supreme, too much sauce off my olive NMDs. I could staple steez, bend the goat so I get the cheese. Never